Welcome to Business Wit's Better Business Results. My name's John Witt, and I'm your host. And today our guest is Jason Valiante. And Jason is the owner of Valiante Tax and Financial Management. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Jason, I always start off our show asking our guests to share a little bit about how you got here. What's your purpose?
What's my purpose? Well, I rewind back to 2005. I decided to move up to Washington from Southern California. I thought a change of scenery would make my life better. It really didn't help anything.
Didn't work?
I realized you need to kind of work from within. I helped open the first Maggiano's up there. I hadn't done any real college yet, just some experimental stuff at Orange Coast. Thought I'd become a real estate agent and get into real estate. And at that time, I sold a few homes, bought a house. That was back when they were doing stated income loans. They pumped up my income, kind of got me into a loan and a product I really couldn't afford. And at that time, I was pretty much upside down on my house, months behind, and I was working at a Windermere Real Estate, and I wanted to make a change to a Keller Williams. And they had kind of like a coach on staff when you're coming in and interviewing you. And she gave me a Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. I started reading it over the weekend, and I realized in that book who I was. I was poor dad, didn't have any assets really, didn't really have a business. And I came back to meet her on Monday, and she was surprised that I had read almost the whole book, which led to continually reading some of his books. And I found out that in one of his books, he says if you can read financial statements, you can become a better investor. So after I lost everything, came back to California, I went back to school, and I got a degree in business with an emphasis on accounting.
And so now you have learned to read financial statements.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of fall into it. I don't think any kid really says they want to be an accountant in second or third grade. So.
Right. But your purpose there then is it to help people not get into that spot that you were in?
Yeah, it's become a passion of mine, so people don't end up bankrupt or in a lot of credit card debt. And kind of where I was.
Yeah,
I use that as
it's
my
a hard
motivating
spot.
factor. It's a very, very tough spot.
Yeah. So let's talk about Valiante Tax and Financial Management. Who most benefits from those services? What types of businesses?
That's a great question.
Or individuals, right?
Yeah, we kind of have two segments to it. The first part and main part we like to focus on is small businesses, 0 to 10 employees. We help them because they wear a lot of hats, as you always teach me coaching, and they get busy. So a lot of times their QuickBooks and stuff go out the window. So we help them keep up on that, have accurate financials, free up time, give them an understanding of their financials, help them stay compliant with taxes and the franchise tax fees and payroll taxes and those small
small business owners, 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, right? And because 0 doesn't work.
Right.
And then individuals also?
Yes, the individual side, do a lot of tax prep. But with those clients, we like to help them with budgeting and debt snowballing to pairs in with our purpose and our why.
Much more trusted advisor work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you touched on a little bit the problems and challenges. So let's talk about the small business owner. What are their top 3 problems and challenges from a financial management standpoint?
One is a lot of them ask me, am I making money? So they're not doing their QuickBooks. They're just throwing something together for taxes, and they don't really know if they're making money because they don't have a P&L.
Okay. What else?
Second, I would say taxes and asset management. They don't sometimes stay on top of their taxes. By not having that accounting, they go on extension, your failure to file penalties, interest on the money that you owed, and usually it starts to become like a revolving door because you don't have that ready, so you just go on extension, and you go on extension, it becomes a pattern for the business owner.
Okay, and what's the third thing?
I would say understanding the second 2 financial statements that I don't think a lot of them pay attention to. Everyone always talks about the P&L.
Right.
But that's only, hey, what I did in June of 2019. Then you have a balance sheet of kind of like where you're headed, where you're going, to your assets, to your debt. And then one that I love that is missed is the statement of cash flows. Because small business owners sometimes, especially if you're a single member, as you know, single service member, it's kind of, you're making money for yourself, but are you leaving money in the business or are you taking it all out?
Yeah. Cash flow and the cash flow, getting them off the cash flow. I mean, getting businesses off the cash flow roller coaster is a key component of what I'm doing with my clients, right? When we stabilize and streamline that cash flow, they get to be a lot happier.
Absolutely.
You can make decisions, you can make investments. All right, so good. And then when it comes to the individual from a tax standpoint, particular problems that you're solving there?
I think helping them understand their tax form. Many young people, I've realized they've told me when I've gone over line by line or shown them a 1040, this section is your income, this is this, and they go, no one's ever explained that to me.
Yeah.
And then kind of just asking them, do you have a budget? It's shocking, and I don't think they expect that question, or it's kind of personal, but do you have debt? So they have tools that can help you, and it's just all part of your tax prep.
Right.
It's helping people, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. That's huge value. And you mentioned young, so there's no age demographic, right? You're
Well, everyone needs a tax return, but usually, people that are older are usually probably a little more established on their way out to retirement. So with the budgeting and that part of it, it's kind of people in their 20s, 30s to kind of get them on the right foot, or even in their 40s if they have kids, maybe help them get out of it too.
If I knew what I know now when I was 25, it would be different.
That's always it, right? If I knew what I knew now, but I've learned I probably wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have those experiences.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about how you go about solving those problems. How do you do that?
On the business side, we keep up with monthly bookkeeping, monthly transactions. For example, if you don't do monthly and there's a fraudulent fee on your Chase account, you swiped it somewhere, you wouldn't know that, or you might be past the point of challenging that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a P&L, you'll have some ratio analysis plugged in to look at your debts, your assets, your debts, your statement of cash flow. I think it really helps the business owner improve their financial decisions.
Sure. Well, and that's really, at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, right? How do we make better decisions with the money that we make?
Absolutely.
Should it go into savings? Should it go into retirement? Or should it go into investing to make the business better? All of those are potential decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are very important decisions to make. And one thing we like to do is, a lot of people talk about a break-even point. We like to look at what do you need to make on that one-member business, because you get a lot of those people that get into a business from, they're good at the service point of it. I'm good at photography.
I'm good at this or that, yeah.
And then it's, how much money do you really need to make to break even in life? Because if you can't live in life, business isn't helpful.
Yeah. It's not doing, you should go get a job.
Absolutely. Because in accounting, they have the calculation of what's your break-even point, which is to pay the bills, pay the rent, and not make anything. But I don't think that's realistic on one member business, because you need to live and live your personal life. So,
and I gotta be honest, from my perspective, and I think most people would say this. It's the easy thing to do is to get a job, get paid, right? The harder thing, but bigger rewards, is to own your own business. Because that's where that entrepreneurial, that's where the money's really at. The big opportunity exists. Now, not everybody's cut out for that. But,
they're not.
And you help them identify, does that make some sense or not?
Yeah, I think it helps them. A lot of what we do and what you do is open their eyes to using those financial statements to create calculations. How many more clients would I need to take on an employee? If my average sale is this, sometimes it opens their eyes of freeing up time to grow, because they don't realize, hey, I only need 6 more clients a month would pay for an employee. And then they kind of look at it and go, wow, I
didn't know that.
Time
it's a different way to look at it.
Not work 70 hours a week.
Yeah. So what's a big success story? Somebody that you've worked with that...
Recently, I had one of my favorites. I was networking with a tax attorney who I met one time, and we just went to lunch, and all of a sudden a referral came from him, and it's a hairstylist. And since he was a tax attorney, I was concerned, is this girl coming with a bunch of unfiled tax returns? But actually, she has her own salon, and she's a Paul Mitchell grad, and she's very successful. And she came into me with a single member, sole proprietor, just a business under her own name. And immediately I looked at her sales and how much she was making and how much she was paying in self-employment tax, and said, hey, have you ever thought about changing your structure and doing some things? And within that meeting, she talked about wanting to have a helper because she's getting tired. I couldn't believe it. This girl's doing $150K with one chair and no assistant in the styling world. I was baffled. So we talked about a few things. I kind of showed her what it would look like to have an employee. And lo and behold, I went to go to my haircut the other day because I started using her.
Sure, you might as well take advantage.
She's good, though. So I had to test her out because I was going to a good stylist in Tacoma, but I couldn't get out there. And she says, at new salon. So I go to the old one, not thinking. She's not there. I'm calling her. I said, where's this new location? and it was up the street. And when she was cutting my hair, she's like, you're a big reason why I'm here. And that's why we do what we do, to realize like I didn't feel like I did, but I did, just sitting there talking.
Helped her make a decision to go to a new place. And
she has her own place now.
Oh, that's awesome.
With a helper, and yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is fabulous.
I think she's going to be happy with how much she's going to save in taxes this year too, with her entity and what we decided to do.
Yeah, I suppose she is. So think of this person here, right? What was she surprised at? What was she surprised that she got when she met with you?
She said, nobody's ever told me this.
Nobody's ever told you.
So
not only did she get her books and all that other stuff done, but she's like, she got that.
A lot of times people go to someone that was referred to them from church or this. And the tough thing about that client was she didn't know them. She was just sending this data off to Texas, never really met with them. And in our fields, you can see things. I could see from looking at the tax return that things weren't correct, and it kind of worried me. So I talked to her. I said, hey, there's things on here, what we call double dipping. There's things that are on here twice. For me, it's easy to catch. But we went over some things, and I said, it's good to work with someone you can go in, you can meet, and they can actually talk and go over these things with you. Yeah.
Wow. So she definitely got some things she wasn't expecting. That is a great story.
And I did too. I got a good stylist now.
And you got a good stylist,
that,
yeah.
So.
Well, I know. I like to use my customers. You use your customers. I mean, what comes around goes around. That's always helpful. So let's. How about sharing some tips? People that are out there doing their thing, they could certainly come to you, and you would take care of all of that stuff. But if they were doing their own thing, what are the top three things you would say? Hey, you need to make sure you need to do this, this, and this.
All right, let's do a top tip. Let's start with the small man here. That single member. I'm busy. I do everything. I recommend getting QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's going to help you with, it has everything kind of built into it. It's got a mileage app, so basically you can just take pictures of receipts, put them in, it'll track your mileage. It's basically built for the self-employed person. If they put in information from their previous tax return, it'll tell them, as long as they keep up on it, at the quarter you owe a tax payment of this and this. So it's a great way to help them simplify their expenses. It keeps it, for me, it's too dumbed down, we would say, in the accounting field.
Okay.
So when they send me an invite to use it to prepare their return, I'm looking at it going, this is really simple and too simple for me. But for them, that's what they need. Get them on the right foot.
Big step in the right direction.
Yeah, you're never too small to actually have accounting and financial statements.
Right. Okay. What else?
2 would be start working and learning how to understand those statements, because there's a story behind it. You can see patterns, you can see trends of months were busy, months were slow.
How would they learn to read the story or understand the story?
Doing comparison within their reports in QuickBooks. You can say compare to previous period, compare to last year. So it'll lay a June over June of last year, and you can see, hey, I'm up from last June, I'm down.
This month versus last month, this year versus this time last year.
It'll be this quarter versus the second quarter of 19 versus first quarter of 19. You can put percentages on there to see how much you're up, how much you're down. And
those are the metrics.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful. I remember when we just had our second kid, John, and I looked at it, because you were off for the month. You took a month off.
Okay.
But when I went back to work, I looked at it, and there was no income for that month. When I looked at the financial statement, it drove me to be like, I never want to be here again.
Yeah.
I never want to have zero income for a month.
No, that's pretty harsh. That's pretty harsh. All right. So if you moved into a slightly bigger business, somebody with employees, what would you share? What would be your top tip for them?
Having someone take over that stuff so you can manage your business. And I recommend having multiple advisors. So my favorite is having a coach, having an accountant. The more accountability you have, the more chances of success your business is going to achieve.
Well, it allows you to focus in on what you're really good at.
Absolutely.
So you could hire an accountant if you were big enough to pay for an accountant. More often than not, until you get to a certain size, it doesn't make sense to have a full-time accountant.
Absolutely, yeah.
But somebody has to do that. And if you're in that business that has employees, it probably shouldn't be the owner.
No, not at all. You've got employees to manage.
You got too much stuff to do.
Watch. You want to help them with their productivity, be focusing on them. And you want someone who's going to help you read that stuff, keep up on that stuff, and make sure your bills are paid and things are getting done, not falling behind.
Yeah. So if somebody was interested in talking to you about your business and your services, we're going to put some information at the end of this video to help them reach out to you. But do you offer a free consultation?
Absolutely. If we can get together and talk about your accounting, look at them, just bring your QuickBooks and look it over and discuss some things. I can ask you some questions. I can send you a questionnaire ahead of time to kind of get a basic idea of where you're at and what your needs are.
And then be able to give them a flavor of whether this makes some sense to engage your services or not.
Absolutely. I give them, my goal is I hope you learn something from my talk.
Yeah.
If you don't use me, hey, maybe you learned one thing, and then my job is fulfilled.
And I'm very similar. I offer the first session's always complimentary, and I just want to do what I can to help you. Pick up a couple things, and off you go. Fine. If we decide to work together, okay, then we'll work something out. We'll decide what that is. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the small business arena, we don't want to be charging them for every little thing. We want to help them grow.
Yeah. So let's talk about small business arena for just a minute then. How long have you been in this practice?
5 years.
5 years now. So what are the top 3 lessons learned?
Ooh. Small business arena players that are not incorporated, make sure you pay and keep up on your accounting so you pay your self-employment tax.
As a business owner, what are the things you learned about running your business?
Oh, my
What are the
business.
top things you learned about? What are the top 3 things or top things you learned about running your business?
Having trusted advisors, I didn't really experience the growth until I actually started working with you. When we started working together, I started having an accountability date. I started realizing to stay on top of the important activities, not always the busy ones. Sometimes the busy ones are actually derailing you from achieving growth.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? We have this quantity focus, right? I want to get 9 things done out of 10, but sometimes with the 10th one is the most important one.
That's the one that gets pushed to the back burner that
Again and again and again. And it's the one that holds you back from making
you
progress.
need to just block out half an hour, and put some time into it.
Yeah, okay, so that's an insight. You learned how to basically say, hey, this is how I'm going to get that important stuff done. I'm going to block that time out.
Absolutely. I learned you need to really understand who your ideal client is. When I started in this business, it was everybody with a pulse needs a tax return, so they're a client.
Yeah.
But really, I didn't get it until you start narrowing them down, and it's something I recommend doing every year, and you start to fine-tune your person you're looking for and how to present that in a sales pitch.
Yeah. And anything else? Any other lessons learned?
Always do education. I'm constantly reading, and I'm constantly pushing myself to learn more. I think one of my next goals is to hopefully get my master's degree. It's something that I've been seeing a lot of friends do, or that's popping up in feeds lately. So I kind of feel like it's a prompting to, consider and maybe get that MBA in business management or accounting. And
Always be learning. So, it's a strategy.
Absolutely.
We don't have to learn 100% of the time, but you can never stop. The most successful people in the world say, hey, you need to spend 4 to 6 hours a week in personal or professional development.
Absolutely.
That's how you get better.
It's not always easy, I can say that, but I notice have a good planner too. I have this passion planner, and it's kind of built out to help individuals, executives, and it's kind of laid out in how you're spending your time. It asks you questions at the end of the month, like, are you happy with your time this month? And you go back and you kind of review it, and you write, what would you do different next month? And last month, it had me highlight all the good things I did, and when you see it that way, it wasn't as bad of a month as I thought. It's like, hey, there's a lot of yellow on here.
I got some stuff done.
I'm doing those things that I know it's like interest that will compound over time, and it'll show it at your bottom line.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your tips. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, John.
You're welcome. All right, guys, join us again next week for another episode of Better Business Results.